What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Six Rings Kane Show. I'm Jazz Santana, joined here by David Eversole, Danny Gillette, Paul Austria back from his hiatus, the West Coast, and of course, fashionably late as always is Jakari Givens. Story of our lives with the guy, so we're waiting for him to jump on soon. Thanks, guys, for joining us today. This week is kind of crazy, right? Because we've got a bye week coming off of an ugly win against Virginia. 19-14. We talked about it a little bit in the post game show. How we're still seeing the Kings struggle on certain things, but also have a lot of success with others. So, we definitely want to talk about that. We want to talk about what's coming up in the next week and a half or so. Obviously, next Friday, not this Friday, but the following Friday night, we play NC State, who's always going to be a tough game. Will they have Devin Leary back? I think so. And if they do have Devin Leary back, that bodes an issue for the Miami Hurricanes because they always seem to have some issues with some really good quarterbacks. Hopefully, they will figure it out and game plan accordingly and get the ball rolling. NC State's always going to be a tough team to play. They always play everybody tough. So we'll talk a little bit about that also. Dave, I know we didn't have you on the show last I guess a post-game show. I know we had you on the pregame show, but what did you see from the game on Saturday night against the Virginia Cavaliers?
It was a sloppy affair, obviously. After a real hot start, you figured Miami was going to just steamroll them. I think 2 plays in, Harley catches the big touchdown. They go up 7-0. And then after that, it's just a barrage of field goals for the remaining 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So really disappointed in the offense. I respect how Lashley stuck with the run, despite the fact that we couldn't get out of our own way in the running game. And King in the passing game really carried us to the mediocre offensive output that we got. It was an ugly game aesthetically. I was pleased with King for the most part. I thought he left some plays out there on the field. That one pass to Harley should have been another touchdown. He was pretty wide open. But overall, 21 for 30 for King. He was fairly accurate on the game. A couple of missed throws there. Averaged 10 yards per pass. So the big plays were there. We were really making those chunk plays in the passing game. Overall, I was pretty pleased. I'd probably give him a solid B for the effort in the game. I like the defense. I like how well the defense bent but didn't break. But we're not creating big plays. We're not getting any turnovers in the defense, really. Not getting a ton of sacks in the last couple of games. So a lot to improve on. But these are games that Miami lost in years past, so I'm not going to sit here and beat us down. We got the job done. We got a bye week to sort of put things back together. So all in all, a mediocre effort, but given the climate of everything, I'll take it.
Well, I'm gonna go to Danny Gillette on this one because this is what I kind of had some time to sit back and really think about the game and watch it a little bit again and watch some highlights and do some fact checking and some stat checking. And correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, you might be able to see this. Has the offensive line regressed a little bit since the first 2 or 3 games? Right, we're talking about allowing 1 sack, I think, or 1 or 2 sacks the first couple of games, and then all of a sudden the last 2 or 3, it's been about a total of 14 sacks that the offensive line has given up. And I know that some of that is coverage sacks on, De'Aaron King holding on to the ball a little bit too long, not getting out of the pocket and making some throws. But at the end of the day, man, 14 sacks in a couple of days, it's kind of tough, all right, to swallow with an offensive line that's, started off pretty hot. And playing well, and now has regressed in the last couple of games. Coach Lashley was talking about Jalen Rivers in the press conference this past week, and Navon Donaldson, about how Navon Donaldson's not cleared yet, but when he is, if he is this year, he may get some playing time, and that Jalen Rivers is ready to go. Why not give those guys a shot? What do you think?
I think it would be a good idea because at this point in the schedule, you're only going to face tougher teams and tougher competition. They may not be tough in the sense that they have talent, but look, we're heading into the later part of the season. Every game means that much more. And these teams know that, and they're going to try to come after Miami. Miami is one of the premier teams in the ACC and in all of college football right now. And you can bet that they want to stop King as much as possible. So I do think it is a little bit of a cause for concern. I mean, some of it may be competition when you look at, we played FSU, who put me to sleep. I mean, we played a lot of teams that weren't necessarily as put together as some of the upcoming teams that we're facing, and I do think that's a little bit of an issue because you know Derek King needs time to throw, and this offense needs to get moving, or else we're going to be in for a long couple of games down the stretch run.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Paul, just to piggyback off of that, we did see some good things. I know you were out of town, but you were able to watch the film and see some of the game. We noticed that De'Aaron King got it going throwing the ball, right? Wide receivers started to play a little bit better. Obviously, Mike Harley had a career day. Mark Pope looked like he was involved a lot in the passing game, got open on some plays. Could have probably had a couple more catches, but Will Mallory was great in the first two drives and then kind of disappeared after that, right? And I don't know, Coach Lashley was talking about it was part of, just the flow of the game. I don't think that the flow of the game should never not involve Will Mallory or Brevin Jordan. So I think that's just it's coach talk. I get half of the time it's coach talk with these guys about, that. Another thing that I kept complaining about, which obviously Lashley didn't seem to mind too much, is the fact that De'Aaron King wasn't pulling the ball on some of these zone reads where he had open space to go get 10, 12, 20 yards on some of these carries, and even some in the red zone where he could have just walked right in. What did you see out of the offense that bothered you? Obviously, I know the running game as well, but what did you see out of the offense that maybe kind of concerned you?
I think it's mostly what you guys already alluded to is the offensive line. I feel like there were plenty of times where, man, like King. I mean, when you look at King's numbers overall, like he completed 70% of his passes, threw for 300 yards. But there were a few scrambles that he literally just looked like he was running for his life because the pocket just totally collapsed. Guys like DJ Scaife, Ja'Kai Clark were just getting steamrolled. And King couldn't even throw if he wanted to. And to me, that's alarming just because, we've kind of seen this the past, 2, 3, even 4 years, because, I mean, especially with Scaife. Scaife was great in his freshman year. But ever since, there's just kind of been a lot wanted to be desired. And you kind of just feel like he's regressing, And overall, O-line depth isn't that bad, but there's just they need better guys. The guys need to play better. There's talent on this O-line. They just need to play better. They need to, I mean, especially with Scaife. I mean, Scaife is a senior, and scouts are going to be looking at his tape and wondering, what happened here? What happened here? It's also good to see Mike Harley step up. It did, not gonna lie, it did tick me off when I think he either after the game, he mentioned that the receivers were kind of doing the bare minimum up to this point where they weren't staying after practice, to run routes with King, or they weren't.
Y'all gotta excuse me, man. I'm about to be home in like 10 minutes.
You're good, man. And they weren't on the jug machine after practices as well. And I mean, I think Harley now kind of understands that this is also Harley's senior year where he has to step up. Scouts are looking, and it's gonna help King tremendously. Because we can't expect King to make Superman plays all the time, and also too, I think the running game could have used a little more work, obviously, but overall Miami's offense wasn't that bad. It was just that they couldn't convert in the red zone. I counted 4 red zone trips, and they only got 1 touchdown out of it and 2 field goals, and then I think the other time was I think it was a blocked field goal. And it was good to see that. I think obviously the on the scouting report, Virginia was very prone to allowing the big plays. I think they allowed like 7 plays of 35 plus yards against Wake Forest. So it's good to see that Lashley kind of went after it on like the second play to Harley deep, and then I think it's progress for offensively, but the running and how do I say this? Because I do remember rewatching the highlights, and there was one time I think Jasmine, you mentioned that Lashley wished King could have just kept the ball instead of handing off to the running back on zone reads. There was one play where I think he handed off to Chaney, but the TV camera was panned to I think Harley and Wiggins on the far side, and they were wide open. They were wide open. Like 2 receivers were open on that, but instead the camera panned back to the actual play where it was a handoff to Cheney, and I think they lost like 2 yards.
I
You
remember
know,
that.
yeah. So in retrospect, like David said, like these are games that they may have lost in past years. I think the Miami fan, not even just a Hurricanes fan, but just a Miami sports fan in general, wants to be critical and say like, oh, it was a win, but it wasn't pretty. But when we look at it, the team's 5-1, and their only losses to the top team in the nation. You know, and I feel like good teams are able to pull out those ugly wins. But you just hope that they kind of recognize these lapses, especially when Miami started off the season first or tied for first in the ACC in red zone, but I think they've slipped to 29th in the country now. So they gotta Lashley's play calling could be a little bit better, I think, in the red zone, because they definitely left some points on the board. But there were a lot of good signs, a lot of good stories coming out of this offense. So I'm not really that bothered, I guess.
Well, Dave, look, you mentioned this, right? Yeah, it's. I don't want to say a win is a win because it's so cliche, and I don't really like using that. But we're 5-1, right? A lot of these games we may have dropped in past years, so that's definitely a positive. But I do want to kind of go back to what we've all been talking about already, which is the regression at the offensive line. Do you think, Dave, that they may have to do exactly what they did with the wide receiver position on the depth chart and open it up, open up the competition again, maybe get these guys kind of motivated, which I mean, it's not a good thing, right? That's kind of a bad thing that you have to do this again mid-season and get these guys motivated to play harder, right? You heard a lot of things from Coach Diaz and Coach Lashley that kept saying, well, we came into this game thinking that it was going to be easy, or that's on the coaches, right? That's on the coaches to get the guys pumped up and ready to play football. And when you see a football coach say that in an interview, in a press conference, that to me is concerning. Talk about that, and also about opening it up for competition on the offensive line, Dave.
Well, I think it's a double-edged sword. You look at the stats, and if you just box score analyze the game, you're going to see 5 sacks allowed and think, oh, the offensive line was a total train wreck. But a lot of those sacks were on King holding the ball too long. At least 2 or 3 of those, King should have got rid of the ball. And the lack of a running game up front, you ran the ball 40-something times, but there wasn't a lot of creativity in your run calls. You kept trying to pound the ball up the middle. You weren't having any success between the tackles and the gaps between the guards. You got to mix it up with the play calling to help your offensive line out. You got to get the ball out quicker if you're King. So, yeah, I mean, I think some other guys might need to see some, team one reps in practice to sort of give a behind-the-scenes kick in the ass to the starters. But I think you got to look at the offense as a whole from Lashley down. A lot of guys underperformed on the offense. Statistically, King had a good game, but again, he missed some reads on the zone read that he should have either pulled it down and ran it. And I think he's been a little gun shy since Clemson, because he took some big shots in that Clemson game. If you notice the last couple of weeks, he's not getting out there as consistently on the edge in those reads. So I think there's a lot of things beyond the offensive line that need to be addressed. And you got to help them out. If you got some guys rotating in and out that maybe haven't built continuity with your more steady contributors, you've got to help it out with play calling. You got to help it out with some creativity in the offense. And I know we don't miss the days of the bubble screen and things like that, which we used to see that forever because we didn't have quarterbacks that could really push the ball down the field accurately. But I think you just gotta speed the game up as far as getting the ball out of King's hands a little bit, help the offensive line. He shouldn't hold the ball longer than 2.5 seconds. And in the run game, you got to get Cam Harris back on track. I think he's sort of fallen out of favor with the emergence of Knighton and Cheney, and he had some issues on Twitter which were kind of quickly squashed by the coaching staff. So there's a few crack in the armors between what Harley said about the work ethic of the wide receiver room, between Harris being a little bit disgruntled, you're 5-1, but there's a little bit of turmoil behind the scenes that a good team has to put out those fires before they take over. So I think you got to take a look at the whole offense as a unit and not so much single out the offensive line. But, yeah, the O-line could definitely use maybe some fresh guys, at least in practice, to push the other guys at the bare minimum. And we've got some real problems on the interior.
Yeah.
Beyond Gainer. I think the guard play has been very mediocre.
It's been mediocre. Absolutely. I think what needs to happen is, the first couple of games, 3 or 4 or 5 games, you had, probably the first 3 or 4, you had a lot of these guys talking about leadership, right? Talking about how stepping up on the sidelines and helping each other out and pushing each other to be better. I haven't heard that in the last couple of games really as much. And I think that, again, we need to overcome it, Dave, right? Like you said, we need to overcome this. We need to put out these fires. We need to go ahead and move forward. And say, hey, let's go after it. Let's go get it. We're better than this. We're better than what we're showing. Let's execute a little bit better. Cam Harris is kind of, he's been averaging 2.5 yards, 2.6 yards per carry lately. Don Chaney did step up in this game, right? I was kind of not surprised, but I was happy with his performance. 10 carries for 43 yards and a touchdown. He ran really hard.
They both run hard. Chaney and Knight run hard.
They run super hard, right? And then you've got one that's a little bit bigger than the other, but they're both quick. They both can break tackles, so they both ran really hard. Cam Harris, he's talented, man. He's just got to put it together, get his mind right again. There was a point there where we thought, okay, this kid's going to run for 1,600 yards this year, and he's just regressed a little bit as well. So we definitely want to see, the next week and a half, how these kids respond, how they kind of get their mind right, get their body right, and go out and face the NC State team. It's not going to be easy. They're going to play you a lot tougher than UVA and even Pitt. That's a good football team, and I think they're better. I think they're better than both of the teams that we just played. And the truth of the matter is, and De'Ara King kind of said this in the press conference, right? Like, this second half of the season is when the great teams start to separate themselves and show up. Can Miami be that great team? They're going to be favored probably all the way down if they don't lose, right? So can they be that great team that De'Ara King is talking about? Can they kind of put everything together and have one complete game, right? Kind of like what they did against FSU. Can they run the ball efficiently? Can they throw the ball down? Although they didn't throw the ball down the field as much, except the D. Wiggins touchdown during that game, they still put it together. And so we need to see that again. We need to see a complete game from the offense again. Definitely give a shot. Why not give a shot to Jalen Rivers? Why not get Isaiah Walker in there? If Navon Donaldson is ready to go, dude, put him in. Your interior is gonna be beefed up with a guy like that in the interior, right? So maybe get Cleveland Reed sometime, whatever it takes. For me, it's about putting the best guys at the positions to be successful, right? I don't really care if it's a freshman or a ninth-year senior. I really don't care. For me, it's about winning football games and not having to struggle or make it look ugly every game. I really, honestly, Miami has better talent than these teams that they've been playing by a lot. At least I feel that way. So they should be able to put more points on the board. They should be able to dominate these football games a little bit better than they have. It looked like after those first 15 scripted plays with Rhett Lashley, they kind of got lost a little bit. Luckily, Mike Harley was having a great day, so De'Ara King was able to kind of bail us out of some drives with some throws down the field to Mike Harley and some of the other guys. But it kind of felt like the offense wasn't moving smoothly again, like they did in that first drive. So I was a bit concerned about that, but I'm not worried. I'm just a bit concerned because I think they need to clean it up. I'm not worried. I think that they will put it together and start scoring some points again. Again, I'm not at that point like we've always been with guys like Dan Enos and then the quarterback situation where we're like, dude, we need to figure something out at quarterback. No, we know we have a quarterback. We know that Rhett Lashley can put together a nice game plan, right? We don't have to worry about if he throws a pick in the first quarter that we want to put in N'Kosi Perry or Tyler Van Dyke. It's not that type of season, which is good. It's a breath of fresh air. We haven't had to deal with that recently. So I still want to see – there's always room for improvement. So I definitely want to see improvement on the offensive line. And, again, the running game. Danny, and we spoke about this, man. In the pregame, we wanted to see the running game get going. We still didn't see the running game going. What's it going to take for the running backs And then we'll get into defense after that. What's it going to take for the running backs to get it going? Forget about the offensive line. I think we need to see more out of the running backs. Is it play calling? Is it them running with more vision? What's it going to take?
I think it's going to take, honestly, to get them more involved in the passing game, because if they can get more involved in the offense as a whole, then maybe they can get warmed up and start, really contributing in the run game. Yes, the offensive line is not great, and that can affect a running back's rhythm. And so I think maybe instead of focusing on just the running game, get them involved in the passing game as well. I do think there needs to be some um, what's the word I want to use? Ingenuity in regards to run calls. I do think, these running backs have a tendency to run straight forward as opposed to the outside a lot of the time. So maybe that's something that they can work on. But I do think maybe if the running backs can get involved a little bit more in the passing game, get their legs moving, get them involved in the offense and involved in the drive, then possibly that could lead to success in the running game. I think at this point, you want production from the running backs, whether it be receiving the football or running the football. And now it's just a question of, okay, how are we going to make that happen, and how are we going to do it?
Yeah. Now, you bring up a good point. That's actually a really good point. Get them involved in the passing game. Let's turn it over. No pun intended. Let's turn it over to the defensive side of the ball. And Paul, we'll start with you, Paul, on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, we missed a couple of guys this past game with Corey Flagg out. A lot of these, Brian Balaam and some other kids on that side of the football that missed the game. Again, Amari Carter. Dave, I think you won that. You definitely won that bet. If you placed any money on it, Dave,
this guy, man, I can't with him anymore.
Listen, when I saw
there was a solid tweet from Turnover Chain. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, unbelievable, man. First play of the game on defense. First play, this kid gets knocked out of the game.
We need Jakari. Jock and I talked about it earlier, and what the hell is that guy thinking? I mean, it's like every game. I feel bad for the kid. Like he's effing up his head, and it's not good. It's not good. And it's like, he's a captain? He's supposed to be a leader of the defense, and you're out there headhunting guys. It doesn't make sense. But
well, I'll tell you what. I was speaking to Larry Bluestein, Paul. Before we get to you, I was talking to Blue, sitting next to me this weekend. Talking about that exactly, right when it happened, I turned to Blue and I go, Blue, what the hell is going on here with this kid? That's 4 targeting calls this year alone already in 6 games. 4 targeting calls, 2 got overturned, but 4 targeting calls. I mean, come on, man. At some point, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, okay, I don't mind good tackles, hard tackles, strong, but listen, dude, if you're leading with the crown of your head the whole entire time, you got to figure it out, man. You got to do something different, and the coaches got to get on top of him about it also, because it could end up screwing you over in one game, and then that's going to be the issue. Although, when I turned over to Blue and I kind of told him, I go, what the hell's going on here? He goes, listen, a lot of people have been talking that he's necessarily not the best safety, and one person that kind of mentioned it was Epic Sands to Larry Bluestein. I guess they were looking at they were watching a game against Carroll City football game this past week, and he said he's not that good of a safety, and maybe he's trying to compensate for that by doing these kind of things, right? Trying to go out there and make a huge hit and lay the wood and kind of get the crowd going crazy. But maybe they're right. Maybe he's just not the best player to be out there on a constant basis playing the safety position. So, I mean, I don't know what you think about that, Paul. I did like what I saw out of guys like Sam Brooks. The defense, I think, played well, held UVA to 14 points. The only issue I saw was them trying to stop the quarterback on a lot of those, scramble plays where he got outside of the pocket and ran for 10, 15 yards on multiple plays. The running game, the running defense was okay. But aside from that, I saw the guys playing hard. I think that the front 4 does need to get a little more pressure because, Dave, as you mentioned it, no turnovers. No turnovers at all. 1 sack in the whole game. So that's the biggest concern with the front 4 that we have. You need to get more pressure on a guy like especially a guy like Brennan Armstrong. Although, Blue also mentioned this, UVA has a very very good offensive line, full of seniors, full of older guys. So maybe that's the biggest issue. Paul, what'd you like about the defense?
For me, I think they just. I mean, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think well, I did see too many clips of the of Armstrong scrambling, and that drove me crazy.
Me too.
Because it's kind of like you gotta hope that guys like Jennings and McLeod keep an eye on him in the pocket. I mean, he's a decent thrower, but those plays can annoy the hell out of you if you're playing defense. It's like imagine like on third down, going to third and long, and he just is, and you play great coverage, but the quarterback just finds a way to escape. And yeah, you guys mentioned it. It's just with Carter, it's so frustrating. And I mean, personally, I think up to this point, I've always been more of a Bolden Hall tandem fan. I feel like Carter is a solid safety, but I feel like his coverage aren't that great. And now it's gotten to a point where like he's not going to play an entire game, which is kind of weird to say. And I mean, I don't want to make it seem like he's like, nah, that's a too strong a way to put it. But like, man, it's like first play of the game, and he has to look at the tape and kind of just like at least self-analyze how he's approaching tackling. Like, I think Jazz brought up a great point where if word around town is that he's not a great safety, he might be just focused too much on just making that send a message play,
Right.
But it's costing the team so much, and pass Hall and Bolden, and pass Carter, like they're all young guys, I think they're all are they all freshmen? I think past them because it's Balaam, Harrell.
Jalen Harrell got some good playing time too. Yeah. As far as the kid, yeah, Flag. They're all freshmen.
Yeah, and thing is, I mean, Balaam and Harrell are solid too, but you just don't, when you have 3 starting level caliber safeties, you don't want it to get to that point where you have to put in a guy like I think what Balaam played against Clemson, right? We
Right.
kind of just, I mean, I'm pretty sure Balaam, I mean, I know you gotta have that ready to play mentality, but there's no way in hell he was expecting to play in that game. No way in hell.
No, not at all. And that's the problem. Like you have to resort to playing those really young guys that may not be completely ready because Jalen Harrell looked kind of lost on a few plays, right? He looked like he was trying to figure it out as they go. And a team like Virginia, who has some veterans on that team, will take advantage of that. Luckily they didn't. But they had some opportunities actually. They had a touchdown get called back, right? On that touchdown, one of the touchdowns got called back. So. And that was one where Jalen Harrell was playing safety on that side that got exposed. So again, you don't want to see those young guys playing so early, at least not in a game like this when it's tight, right?
Yeah. No, if we had Avonte Williams, okay, I probably would not mind throwing a guy like him in the game. But other than that, it's just really unfortunate. I think also one play that also pissed me off was that last touchdown by Virginia when I think Blades did not get lined up correctly in time. And it kind of just seemed like once the ball was like already halfway to the receiver, like Hall and Blades just look at each other and they just like were like, oh wow, like this, like they just stopped playing.
Yeah,
when I feel like Hall was kind of in position to maybe even bat the ball down a bit, or at least just kind of distract the receiver, kind of throw the hands up. That to me was just like, come on, man. Like at least the play isn't over. The whistle hasn't been blown. Like play through the whistle because it's it didn't go like this. This could have it would have made a huge difference. I mean, thankfully they won. I think you also brought this up. I mean, I know Virginia's O-line is very veteran savvy, but it's just weird to kind of look at the box score and just see only 1 sack by the UMD line when the past 3 years, we're used to multiple sack games by this defense easily. And of all people, it was by Bradley Jennings, the linebacker, none of them from the linemen. And
right.
It's weird. It's weird to just I guess analyze because you want. I mean, I'm sure, and I think Roche played a really good game. Don't get me wrong. Phillips too. But you just hope that it's. I guess with the Blake Baker led defense, I I guess he's a little more conservative than how Manny ran his defense. Because when you watch Manny Diaz's defense from the past, like on third down it was always blitzes, but they were always very creative with the blitzes, so he really never knew how to block them. But yeah, on top of that, I mean, if you don't count the 94-yard touchdown drive at the end by Virginia, I mean, they played solid. They played solid,
Yeah,
but
I was okay with the way that,
Yeah.
that they played. So I mean, that's fine. I just think again we just got to clean up some things that were going on from a safety perspective. Amari Carter needs to figure it out. The linebacker play actually wasn't terrible. It was what was it? It was Bradley Jennings. It was Raymond Steed actually played pretty well as well. And then you got guys like Sam Brooks and some of the other kids that played as well. So I mean, it was nice to see that they stepped up and they played well in this game. Defense overall did a good job, and the offense just has to clean some things up. Definitely, guys. I think. Listen, I think we've got about a week and a half before the game, so we definitely want to do some recruiting talk again. I think maybe we can get Ivans back on the show and do something this week to maybe get a recruiting preview, a recruiting update. I think that'll be fun to do again. I know it's early, so a lot of people are not ready to go yet because they know that there's a bye with the Canes next week, this weekend coming up. So I think what we'll do is maybe come back on Thursday or Friday. What do you guys think? You good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we do have a little bit of recruiting news that is a little interesting. I think I sent to you guys either yesterday or the day before.
Oh yeah.
Some Jake Garcia smoke.
Jake Garcia
not
smoke.
even that. Well, that too, but also the cornerback that Miami just offered.
Yeah, 2021 kid.
Now
here's the thing, though. It's his first D1 offer, and he's a track guy. I know that those have worked out in the past for us sometimes, but first D1 offer for a guy, and we desperately need some talent at that position because we're kind of low on scholarship players there. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with him, for sure. For sure. All right, guys. Well, thanks for everybody tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll be back a little bit later this week. And for David Eversole, Danny Gillette, Paul Austria, good to see you back, my friend. We'll talk to you guys soon. Take it easy. Okay.
Glad to be back.
Okay.
Take it easy, guys.